The Step Right Up mod just dropped a few days back, and this mod is really well done and has a ton of lore in it. And interestingly enough, the game opens with you having to give a ticket and spin a wheel to see what song you actually start out with. And initially, I thought it was just a gimmick, but in my playthrough, I received Yume first, while when I looked at CommunityGame's playthrough, it looks like he received Tattletail. And while this isn't a huge deal, I think that it's a cool mechanic, and I hope more mods starts to add like small details like this into them moving forward. Now let's start off with this dog character that is from a game called Duck Season. Some of you guys may remember this game because it was very popular back in 2017, and the game starts pretty tame with you playing as a little boy whose mother ran into the game Duck Season because you had really wanted to play it. But as you start going through the game, you notice that the dog character is a lot more than it seems. Now the original game has like 7 or 8 endings if I remember correctly, but this mod seems to focus on 2 of them primarily. The first ending that it focuses on is the one that's called Stuck Forever, which is why you see this blood red moon in the background and while the scene is very dark. We also see the dog come out of the television, which is another twist from the video game, and one of the things that made it so interesting. The dog wasn't simply some demon that haunted the game, but could actually come into the real world and take people out, which explains the cutscene in the mod. At some point, the dog came out of the game and murdered the young man's mom. So after the kid defeated the dog, he breaks the game so that no other person can get the cursed copy, buries his mother because there's no way that he's going to convince the police that a demonic dog came out of the TV and stabbed her. And then he runs away. And while this isn't technically the canon ending of the game, this is the ending that people were like most satisfied with in a way. Next, we have a character called Tattletail, but it looks like we get to play as a character named Ruby, who is a 12-year-old girl and one of the potential protagonists you can play as in the original game. I say this because if I remember correctly, there was like a picture of 2 children, one girl and one boy, this obviously being the girl. Now, if the Tattletail character looks familiar to you, it's because almost every gaming YouTuber played it back in 2016 when it first dropped.
Okay, that is a weird ass, oh no, task, oh no, task, oh no!
Now in the mod, we see that Mama Tattletail is the main antagonist, just like in the original game, and she was basically like a discontinued toy because she was a danger to children. Something else that I find interesting about this character is that there are even clues in the game that kind of showed that the toy may have been demonic, which is why we see Ruby battling her in front of this pentagram, which of course is supposed to represent the ritual you had to do in the original game to get rid of Mama. And if you're wondering why Ruby is holding her Tattletail doll like in her hands, it's because it's one of the core mechanics of the original game. You would have to walk around the house trying to avoid Mama, which isn't super hard on its own, but you also had to feed and brush your own doll, or it would start to yap like the old school Furby dolls. And Mama was very sensitive to sound, so you definitely wanted to shut the doll up as soon as possible.
Look, I'm trying! Open the thing! Oh my gosh!
It's kind of funny that this game has been pretty much forgotten though, considering how popular it was back in the day. The next character in the mod is Father John, and he is from a game called Faith. And I'll try to give a brief summary of this one without completely spoiling the game because it is really good and I'm thinking about playing it on my second channel. So basically, John was a priest back in the day and he was called to exorcise a demon out of a young lady named Amy, who is the chick with the purple hair in the mod. He and his partner failed to exorcise the demon, and Father John made a deal with like the devil or another demon that allowed him to live, but at the cost of Amy's life. John was basically a coward and he ran away, leaving Amy to her fate. Later, John realized that he needed to finish what he started and set out on a quest to finally exorcise Amy and cleanse her soul. Now, something interesting about this mod is that some of the songs have a mini game in the beginning of them that is basically like a direct recreation of the original game, which is another thing that I love to see with FNF mod nowadays. I noticed that this is a trend that is starting to catch on a bit more. And also, this white demon that we see here is actually a young man named Michael, who is also possessed by a demon and now crawls around on all fours and craves blood like some type of rabid animal. Now, the first thing that I want to point out is that John is full of doubt, not really knowing if his faith is strong enough to save Amy. This is why we see him looking so distressed in the mod, and also why the demon is surrounding him here. The demon is whispering doubt into his ears in hope that John will run away again. The scene here is supposed to represent when a character named Father Garcia comes to back John up. And he didn't just come with crosses or holy water. My boy showed up with the shotty and started feeding demons buckshots. The original game and the final song in this mod end with John exorcising the demon and leaving with Father Garcia to take out more demons, which in my option is the better ending. There's another option where you can retire with a woman named Lisa, but that's just boring in my opinion, especially in a world where you can literally be a demon hunter. The next character that I want to talk about is going to be this one called Smile Dog, which is a classic creepypasta story from back in 2008. And the reason that there are 3 different versions of the dog in this mod is because it does have a few iterations. The first one that we can see in the mod here is closer to the original Smile Dog. And here's what that unmodified image looks like. Now, obviously, the internet started taking this image and making it more and more creepy over time, which is why we have these more demonic versions of Smile Dog. Now, the lore behind the demon is that once you see his picture, you will need to send it to somebody else to spread the word of Smile Dog, which is why those words keep popping up in the song. If you fail to do this, the dog will come out of whatever device you saw the picture on and chase you down, and I think you can imagine what happens if he catches you. Something that I thought was cool that this mod did is that they actually gave us a chance to see Smile Dog trying to come out of the computer into the real world, and he's basically trying to attack this original character named Sarah Taylor. And depending on the choices that you make in the mod, you can actually get an ending where she does not survive, or of course you can get the good ending where she lives. Now, apparently this character loves urban legends and the supernatural, so she goes out of her way to investigate them in her free time, which is likely how she got into this mess with Smile Dog in the first place. And a fun fact, if you go to the Step Right Up YouTube page, you can find a analog horror type video with this character that gives a bit more insight into the park.
You're alone in the park at night, and you see an unaccompanied minor roaming the park after hours. How would you handle that situation?
Like the kid that would miss.
Fascinating response.
It isn't a lot, but I like that some FNF developers are being more creative with their mods, and I hope to see more stuff like this in the future because this is really cool. Next, we have the game called Yume Nikki, and the first thing that I want to note here is that the character that we see in the mod is named Motosuke, while the game itself is named Yume Nikki, which I believe to translate out to be Dream Diary. And just to point out, I'm going to be calling her Suki for the rest of this just so I don't butcher her name too much. And with that being said, the name Dream Diary is very fitting because many people theorize that the game is basically all one big dream that is supposed to represent the drama that Suki has undergone in her life. But as far as I know, the game developer never actually released any information that outright said what is happening in the game. So it has been left up to the community to make their own theories for the most part. In my opinion, the dream theory makes the most sense though, and this is why we see the young lady actually fall asleep in the mod. And then of course he wakes up in this dreamlike world. And all the other young ladies that we see pop up are characters that appear in her dream world while she's exploring. The blonde girl is named Panako, and I mention her specifically because she's attached to this character that pops up while the girls are all riding on a bike. This character is called Yuboa, I believe is how you say it, and it's a character that resides in Panika's house. And if you interact with this character, it'll basically send you to a place called the White Desert. Now, honestly, this is one of those indie games that you will have to play for yourself, and even when you do, you're still likely going to have a ton of questions because it's kind of a mind freak. But hopefully this gives you at least a understanding of what's going on here. A fun fact that I want to point out is just like the Faith game, this one also recreates like the beginning of the original game. So it's almost like you're playing that original game. It's like a point for point recreation almost. The next character that I want to talk about here isn't somebody that we actually get to play or play against, but that's going to be Thumper, and he's the mascot for the Adventure Owl Park. And while we don't know a whole lot about this guy, we know that there may be something in his costume, and a lot of people are suggesting that it is a dead body, which may be why there is that axe basically leading out of this guy's head. My theory is that a real person used to be in Thumper's suit, and for whatever reason he was killed and then now has been resurrected as like the mascot for this demonic park. And now this person is basically just forced to be a servant here until whatever is holding him lets him go. Something else that I found interesting when I was looking at the wiki is that the enemies in this mod are called anomalies, while the protagonists or the people that you play are called contestants. It almost gives the vibe of like anybody who makes it to this park ends up having to play this demonic game. And of course, if they lose their life, as we see in a lot of the game over screens. All in all, I think this mod was very well done, which I expected because this is the Lo-Fi team, I'm pretty sure, which did an amazing job with that mod as well. And I honestly look forward to see what these guys do in the future. With that being said, if you enjoyed this video, check out this video on the screen here. Subscribe today to become a member of the Orseofkorse, and we'll see you tomorrow with another video. Peace, peace.